Hi, everybody, and welcome to Study Abroad 101. This webinar is meant to tell you all the basic things you need to know to get started into looking into study abroad programs at UCLA, how to apply, how to find classes that could work for you, deadlines, all the things like that. So we're going to go over all that going forward. The best place to start is explaining the two main types of study abroad that we offer here at UCLA and the International Education Office. So we handle the UCLA Summer Travel Study Programs and the UC EAP or the UC Education Abroad programs. So the main difference is that UCLA Summer Travel Study Programs are programs where you go abroad with a UCLA professor, you're earning UCLA credit, and you're taking usually two UCLA classes. Most of these programs are around 4 weeks. You can see here 3 to 6 week programs, and they're very specific. And when we get into that, you'll be able to see a little bit of that. Obviously, they're just in summer. These are also UCLA classes, so they are really easily able to fulfill degree requirements, and they are financial aid eligible. UCAP programs are kind of the more traditional study abroad programs where you go to study at a foreign UC center or a foreign university where we have a partnership with between the whole University of California. On these programs, you are able to earn UC credit and still fulfill degree requirements, but you will have to petition them, so we'll get into that a little bit later. These programs are offered during the school year as well as the summer. And there's definitely more options because you are going to permanent locations abroad as opposed to just with kind of a professor that's temporarily there with you. So knowing that, we're going to go online to our website, which is kind of the best place to start, and really where we're going to spend most of our time. So our website is ieo.ucla.edu. And when we start here, the first thing before we get into program details, I just want to point out is a couple of the other links up at the top. Get started we have a couple different prezzies there right now that are very similar to this webinar. And the finances section has more detail about financial aid for both travel study and UCAP. We're not going to get into that in too much detail, but just know that they both have PowerPoints and prezzies and guides that will tell you a lot more detail about how financial aid works for either program type, as well as a section all about scholarships for any of our programs. So where we're going to start, though, is explore programs right here, and we'll see UCLA Summer Travel Study as well as UCAP right here. So we're going to start with UCLA Summer Travel Study. Like we mentioned earlier, these are very direct programs, very straightforward programs where you go abroad for the summer with a UCLA professor or UCLA faculty member. Each year we have about 25 programs, so it's pretty quick to see what is available. We can sort a number of different ways. You can see by department here, all the different departments coming up, as well as by location if you're not looking so much for the department. It's the exact same programs, just listed a different way. You also have the option to look quickly for ones that fulfill GEs, foreign language, so on and so on. So for these programs, we're just going to use one as an example. Let's do the comparative literature program in Edinburgh, since it's a new program this year. So this program, we'll see very quickly, comparative literature. All the programs will have the dates listed up here. Sometimes when it's too early in the year, we may not have the dates for the next year, but as soon as we have them, we do post them typically in mid-fall quarter. Like we said, most programs are about a month. This looks like it's the month of August. It'll tell you which professor is going with you, a link to their contact information, as well as a pretty good general description about what you are doing in this program, what the focus of this program is. The next section is the curriculum. This will tell you what are the two required courses for this program. So what are the two courses you are going to take while you're there? In this case, it's CommLit 1E and CommLit 191. Each of them are worth 4 units. And this program also does have an optional 199 course for individual study with an instructor. Below here, you'll be able to see a description of each of the courses. If there are any prereqs, it would say so on here. It doesn't look like there are any for this program. And usually if it does fulfill something else other than, something for the major, we'll have it indicated on here. This one looks like it fulfills the literary and cultural analysis or social analysis GE for the college. Below here, there's a section about budget and financial aid. Well, this talks to you about how the program fees work. So for travel study, the first fee listed is the program fee. This is obviously the bulk of the amount, $5,900 in this case. As we can see down here, this includes all the registration and course fees, all of your accommodations, program excursions, health insurance. Also on this one includes breakfast throughout the program. So a good portion of what you need to pay for is included in that, and that's what's owed to us. These other numbers down here are estimates. So these are things you're going to need to pay for. You're just not going to give to us. So your plane ticket and meals and things like that. So if you find some great flight for, $800, which would be amazing, then, you've already saved yourself some money there. But what financial aid is going to do if you receive financial aid, or if you don't for yourself to budget, is you want to add up this whole column. And so the total cost of this program, just going quickly, is about more like $9,000. So when you're thinking in terms of how much am I going to spend for this program, that's what you want to look at. And financial aid is going to do that. They're going to say, okay, this student needs about $9,000. They'll have the exact amount and create you a financial aid package for that amount. Financial aid in the summertime, we always want people to be aware, is very loan heavy. It will cover that complete amount, but whether it's travel study or UCAP, a good portion of it will be loans, including Parent Plus and private loans. And again, there is this section under finances and travel study financial aid, which will go a little bit more into that. Further down on here, we're going to see the final section is the on location section. Keeps jumping up. This section is all about what are you doing there. It's kind of the fun section. What are the accommodations for travel study programs? These can be anything from a dorm, a hostel in this case, to a homestay, apartments, all different things. It'll tell you about meals, if they are included or not, just what the structure is for the program you're looking at, as well as a little bit of detail about the program, kind of expanding on that first paragraph, different excursions. Sometimes they'll have a schedule posted here. Since this is a newer program, it's a little bit shorter here. And then finally, you get to the bottom, and there's two different things. There is a guide if you have just want to look at student stories. This one looks like it's actually maybe for a different program, but you can read about Carla's experience here. And a registration button. So every program is going to have this at the bottom. If you are wanting to register, this is where you want to click on. Travel study registration is really easy. It's all online. It opens on November 15th every year. So it's December when we're recording this. So it is open now. This will explain generally how it works. You more or less complete a registration form we'll look at in a minute. You will upload information about your passport if you have one, agree to the student participation agreement, upload an ID photo of yourself. This is just something that would go on, a Metro card or something like that. And then finally, travel study does require a $300 non-refundable deposit. This does hold your spot on the program, and as soon as you pay that and push submit, you are going on the program. It's really, really easy. All of these programs, because there is just one professor, are first come, first serve. And these will remain open usually until the first week in April or so. So if we go into the registration, we'll just look really quickly. It's a pretty basic registration form about yourself. At the bottom, we'll go down is where you will actually select your program. So we can see here's our program right here. We would just select it. If a program has a wait list, which does happen with travel study, it will be indicated on here. So we can see here we have a very popular program in Spain. So there are 56 students on that wait list, different ones here. If a program does not mention a wait list like these ones, then that means there is at least one spot available and you are able to register. If you were to try to register for a program that's waitlisted, just know it won't allow you to pay that $300 non-refundable deposit. You wouldn't pay that until you were offered a spot. It would just move past that step. Really, that is the general information about travel study. I would just spend some time on this page, look through the programs that you're interested in. If you're looking for something for your major, you can pretty quickly see if it's there. If your major's not there, you may want to look more at the GE ones, or just things that you could get upper division units or something else that may help you towards graduation, or just something you're interested in. So now we're going to move on to UCEAP. UCEAP programs are a little bit more complicated just because, like we mentioned, they are partnerships with universities and UC centers around the world. So we're going to go back to Explore Programs, and we're going to click on UCEAP. When this loads, we'll see there's a couple different ways we can search. There is a way to search by country, or a way to search by subject, different options here. Just going to point it out, there is also this section down here for the summer physics programs, which you may have heard of. These are very popular programs. They do have a very different application process than the rest of our study abroad programs. So I would highly recommend clicking on this sooner than later if this is something you're interested in, because it will be a little bit different and occurs much earlier. But for our webinar for here, I'm going to open this page really quick, and then I'm going to open the subject page so we can kind of see what they look like. So you'll notice it's taking us to a different website, and this is because UCAP, like we mentioned, is through the whole University of California. So every UC campus redirects here, and then you'll work both with the central UCAP office as well as your campus office. So searching by country, pretty straightforward. It lists them by country, and you can click on any country, and it will list all of the programs in alphabetical order. So you see in Spain, we've got a ton of different options, both in summer or school year, all different options. Some at UC centers, others at different universities. But what we're going to search for this time is the search by subject area. And so this is this link right back here. The search by subject takes you to the study abroad builder is what they call it. And it's basically a way to put in filters with our different programs. So say the student wants to go, they're not sure exactly when, they think maybe summer, maybe fall. So we can select both of those options. If they wanted, they could actually go up at the top and select different destinations. We're going to leave it open just to see everything that's available. And let's say they are a history major. So they're going to look for history classes. Where's history? Here we go. There are other things you can search. The GPA function doesn't work super well right now, but the one helpful thing down here, I think, is programs with courses in English. So sometimes you do have to speak the local language for a program. So if you don't speak any languages fluently other than English, you may want to check that just to filter some things out. Otherwise, we're going to leave it all open. And we're going to do a search from 400 programs initially. Now we're down to 116. So obviously still a lot. But again, this is all of our summer and fall programs with at least one history class. And you can kind of scroll through and see it's, again, by country. A lot of these are simply universities. So we've got a bunch of schools in Australia, Barbados. Some may be a little bit more subject specific. So like this one is a field research program. A bunch of others, like we just said, are just different universities. And the nice thing about this page is it will tell us pretty quickly general dates of a program. Most programs, I'd say, are kind of like this one in China, late August to late December for fall. This is because fall, most places, is a fall semester. So August does usually kick off the beginning, and you are usually back in December. However, there are some programs like this one in Chile, for instance, that may start earlier. There are a few that end later than December, which would mean you are back in winter quarter. So you'd be missing fall and winter quarter. So something to keep in mind. Another thing, I know we're not searching for spring right here, but something to know, because schools are generally semester based, when something says spring, which back at the very top under our term, spring does mean spring semester on here. So that means winter and spring quarters. And you'll see the dates, and if it says you're not going to be back until June something, then you can kind of assume if you're leaving in January and coming back in June, that is winter and spring quarters. There are very few quarter options, so just be aware of that when you are planning your schedule, that generally you are away either fall or winter and spring or the summer. Occasionally you may find others though. So for our searching here, and actually, sorry, the one other thing this is nice that tells you really quickly is what is the minimum GPA requirement for the program, and what class level do you have to have when you're going there. So just real quick, you can skim through. For our search, we did something history, which was pretty easy. Just be aware that sometimes your major may not be found on here. They try and cover a lot of things, but not everything's here. So like global studies, for instance, you may end up doing something like international studies or poli-sci or something like that that's related. The other thing, if you are searching and say you just search summer and you only find 10 options, just be aware there may be more during the school year or even vice versa. But let's go into some programs and look at some examples like we did with travel study. The two we're going to use, let's go down to Korea, and we're going to look at the Yonsei Fall program. And then we're also going to look at a program in Spain. We're going to do, where is it? Our Contemporary Spain program at the UC Center in Madrid. So these are both fall programs, but remember, they do have summer programs as well. So let's go to Spain first, actually. So our Contemporary Spain program at the UC Center in Madrid. The first tab, it's kind of like travel study. There's a bunch of different tabs that are just across the top. This one's going to tell us a general overview of the program. So where are you going? What's the city like? Who are you in class with? Because it is a UC Center, obviously UC students only. General dates like we saw before, August to December, pretty standard semester for fall. It will also tell you housing options, just like travel study. There's a whole range. There can be student residence halls or homestays like this. There's private apartments. There are things you may have to find your own accommodations. Well, they will help you, but it's always going to tell you right here. It'll also tell you about extracurriculars, on-site support, things like that. The second tab is going to have our courses and credit information. So some programs like this, where there's kind of a subject to it, or it says UC Center, or both in this case, usually the courses are going to be pretty set. And it may be something even as detailed as travel study, where it has 2 classes and that's what you take, or 4 classes and that's what everybody takes. In this case, there's more of a set structure. So it tells you a bit about the program, where you're taking classes, and then it says you take 3 out of 5 upper division electives. And you can say, or sorry, you take Spanish and 3 of the 5 upper division electives. So you take this and you pick 3 of these. So there is some choice in the different than travel study, but you don't have as much choice as you'd have here at UCLA. But if for you, you're looking to go to Spain, and like we said, we're a history major, we've got a bunch of history classes on here, some art history, that could very well work for what we're looking to do. This program's really nice that it tells you really quickly here what everything counts as. It doesn't always have this, but often, if it's a small program, it may. What all programs do have is a My EAP course catalog. And what this is a list of previously taken classes by other UC students. So these are going to be listed by subject area in alphabetical order. And what this is telling us are classes other UC students have taken and what they come back as at the UC system. So one big difference between travel study and UCAP. UCAP are UC classes. So like we mentioned briefly earlier, even though this we see here, this history class, this post-colonial perspective, Latin American, this class comes back as history or poli-sci. It comes back as 6 units of upper division credit. This is automatic. Whether it counts for the history or poli-sci department here at UCLA is something you have to discuss with that department. So if you're a history major and you want this to count for UCLA history credit, you go to the history department here, say, I have this class I'm hoping to take on study abroad, I'd like to petition for it, and find out what that process is. There's honestly a bit of a range from departments that are super, super easygoing, and they say, yeah, if it's listed as us and it's upper division, we'll take it. You don't really need to check anything else. There's departments that say you cannot take any major classes abroad. We want you to focus on GEs or other units, but we're never going to count a class, and there's everything in between. So it's really important to talk to your department if you are looking to do a UCAP program, just because you can kind of find out from them pretty quickly early on what type of classes you should even be trying to look for, so you're not spending your time, down the wrong path. But the nice thing with these My EAP course catalogs is we are able to at least see what class does it, or sorry, what department does it come back as. And when it is a UC Center program like this, we've got 16 different options on here. It's not too overwhelming, and they all kind of have a theme of contemporary Spain like we were looking at. Similarly, if you were hoping to count anything for your foreign language requirement or other GEs, those will go to your general academic advisor. So like we have this Spanish class here, intensive Spanish level 1, and you said, okay, this maybe can count towards, something I'm doing for my foreign language. You would go and talk to your general academic advisor. This can be AAP or honors or just the College of Letters and Science, School of Engineering, different departments like that. Same type of thing that you do with your major, it's just that they manage it. We're going to jump back to the general page here. The other thing it'll tell us nice on here is how many units do you take on the program. So again, this is a semester program, so you're taking 24 units, but it is 4 courses. And part of the reason each course is worth more is that you are there longer. So it's based on the amount of time you're in class. If there are internships available, it'll usually tell you a bit about the school. This one is the UC Center run by Accent in Madrid. And then the other 2 tabs here at the top, we've got our cost tab, which is going to be really similar to travel study, except they just have 2 columns. So we've got our UCAP fees, kind of the set amount due to us, as well as the estimated additional costs. So kind of how travel study divided it up into a couple different ways. They just add it all together. But similarly, add both columns together, so we get a total of about $17,000. In this case, that is your total need for this term. So that covers your tuition, your meals, your housing, your plane ticket there and back, your toiletries, everything you need for studying abroad and living there. The financial aid office, just like travel studies, also going to add it together. They're going to create you an EFAN for this fall term for about $17,000. It is a little bit more than UCLA. UCLA, just for reference, is about $12,000 per quarter for an in-state student. But keep in mind you are there 50% longer, so just living an extra 5 weeks is always going to cost some money, so it does adjust up, and you will have a full financial aid package for it during the school year. Financial aid is relatively similar to what you get on campus, but always double check with financial aid to be sure. Like we said before, if this were a summer program, just keep in mind it would be more loan heavy. but it would still be fully covered. It would just be, shorter and probably a little less expensive because you're there less time. One thing to note, non-resident supplemental tuition is not included in this. That does get added afterwards if you are a out-of-state student. Just like it would be here on campus, it would be based on the semester length. So if you have questions about that, feel free to let us know. But the same, it would be the same for any program, the way they add it together. The last tab is going to be the eligibility tab. This is going to tell us how do I apply to this program. So this has a little bit of notes about the Spanish. And then down here, it's going to tell us, what do I need? So I need to have sophomore standing by the time I go in the fall. I can take minimum of 0 Spanish quarters, so I don't need any Spanish, but I can only take a maximum of 5. So it's really meant for beginning and intermediate Spanish speakers is what this is telling me. And it has a 2.5 GPA requirement. That is both at the time of application and maintained through when you go. As long as you meet these requirements, that's generally what we're looking for. We're going to jump over to the Korea program now, so you can see it's kind of similar, but they're all going to be pretty similar to this. So now we're going to see our Yonsei program. So very similar to the Contemporary Spain one we were just looking at. It's got an overview tab. It tells about the school. There's got a video linked here, who you're in class with, because this is a full university and more of an immersion program. You are taking classes both with international students and with host country students, so Korean students there. It tells you also the duration. This program has a few different options. So like we talked about, fall, generally August to December for the semester. Spring is going to be February to June. So what this tells me, well, that covers winter and spring quarters. So you would be away both quarters. Just a note for these, there are pluses and minuses to going different terms. In fall, I'd say the benefit is you are usually getting more units, as we're starting to see. You are only away for 1 quarter, if that's helpful. The downside is it usually is a little bit more expensive just because you are there longer. And it's replacing a shorter term here at UCLA. Spring, the benefits are kind of switched. You are away for 2 quarters. So just to keep that in mind as far as your scheduling and making sure you're on track to graduate. But because you are away for 2 quarters and it's spanning 2 quarters, it almost always is less expensive to go in spring rather than going in fall. So just kind of balancing for you what the priorities are, what the pros and cons are, and what is most useful for what you're looking at when you're trying to decide if you do want to go during the school year. Obviously, summer is just an extra additional thing, but it doesn't take away from any time at UCLA. The housing on this program, you can see you have some options. You can do on-campus housing or some off-campus housing, and they've got some information here. Again, extracurriculars, on-site info. Courses and credit. It still talks about the school, just like Contemporary Spain did, but instead of saying, these are the classes you take, it kind of just tells you different subjects that are big there. It tells you different links to the university page. Because just like UCLA, this is a full university and you're going to have a whole course catalog to pick from. So whether that's a good or a bad thing and what you're looking for, you definitely have more choice, but it takes a little bit more time to research. We still have this My EAP course catalog that we'll get to, but you'll see we do have links directly to Yonsei's website where you can really see the most up-to-date information for what's being currently offered and what likely will be offered when you're there as soon as they're able to update it. When we go to the My EAP course catalog this time, if we jump back real quick to the one for Spain, remember we had 16 classes other students have previously done. For Korea, there's 668. So this is, again, a full university. When we skim through really quick, we see all different types of subjects, just like at UCLA. And this is just a glimpse of what other UC students have done. There's likely many other classes. Some of these may be older, but it gives a pretty good starting point. So in our example, we're a history major. So let's look for history. Spell it right. And we can scroll down, and I'm seeing a big chunk down here. So I think this tells us, yep, this is where all those history classes are listed. Likely there's an entire history department. It's just simply, again, this is what other students have done. You can click on any class. It'll give you a little description. And the nice thing, again, about this My EAP course catalog is no matter what program you look at, this is always what they look like, and you're not having to learn to navigate a different university page every time. So it's a really good place to start. It's also helpful for the departments because likely they have seen a page that looks like this before. So we've got our history. It also looks like it's listed as Asian studies as well. 4.5 units, upper division credit. Here's our little description. The other thing down here that's really useful, partner information. So partner university titles, what is this class called over at Yonsei? When you go to Yonsei's website, what are you supposed to look for? It looks like the name's the same, but the department, they call it the Office of International Affairs. So if you're looking for this class, you're not going to want to look for history, you'll look for this. and they have their own course numbering system. So whereas we have this kind of 117, which is sort of a generic UC course number, Yonsei is going to have their own course numbering system, as will any other university, and you can use this to make sure you're matching the right class. For programs like this, keep in mind when you are registering, you're registering for Yonsei University, kind of like when you apply to UCLA, you're not picking your classes right away. So you may want to have a couple classes in mind if you're going to take, let's see how many classes we take here. You're going to take 4 or 5 classes. You may want to pick out, 7 or 8 classes, just in case when you arrive there, or when you register for classes, whenever that is, if something's not offered, or say these 2 classes are offered at the same time, you've got some backup options. The other nice thing about a university like this is, say you want to do some of your history classes, but then you want to do a GE that you have, a literary and cultural analysis GE, or some other type of GE, or just units. You're able to kind of mix and match like you would at UCLA, because you've got so many different things available to you. We'll jump back here again. We've got our unit section, research and independent study is available, and more about the school as well. Because there are internships, there's got a separate tab here. Just keep in mind, not all internships are guaranteed, so you want to make sure you read this carefully if that's important to you. And then we've still got our cost tab. So just like Contemporary Spain, we would add the first 2 columns together, or sorry, the last 2 columns together, the UCAP fees with the estimated additional cost to really have our full glimpse. This one is also about $15,000 actually. Your other slightly longer, it's a 17-week program. And again, financially, it's going to add that together regardless of whether you're going in fall or you're going in spring, which actually is a little bit cheaper, or even a full school year. And they would calculate your financial aid for that total amount, regardless of what term and how much it is. It would fill in with grants, loans, scholarships, anything you have, and would be adjusted based on your personal EFAN, your personal financial need. And again, just to jump back to our UCLA study abroad site that we started on, there is that finances section for UCAP financial aid that you want to go to if you want some more information, as well as the contact information for the financial aid counselors for UCAP. The last tab in the Yonsei example is, again, our eligibility. So again, we've got our class level, language, and GPA. Class level in this case, you again just need sophomore standing, and that is, again, by the time you go on the program. So by next fall in this case, in our example. Language prereq, there's none. It probably doesn't need to be written here, but no language prereq. And the GPA requirement in this case is a 3.0 GPA, and that does need to be at the time you apply and maintain through when you go. So any UCAP program is going to have this general structure, so this should help you be able to look through any of them, really get a good idea, see what's out there, see what could work for you, and just explore the different things that sound interesting. If you get to the point that you want to apply, which we hope you do, it is kind of poorly labeled, so I want to point it out. This up here in the right-hand corner, My EAP, any given UCAP page, scroll up, right up here, that is the UCAP application. So this is how you apply. So once you click in here, you'll see there's a pretty easy way to make an account. From there, it pretty much walks you through everything. There's a portion for UCAP that you do online, and then another portion that you're going to turn in and bring into our office. UCAP programs, generally, as long as you meet the requirements listed on this eligibility tab, then you should be able to go on the program. If a program has a space limit, how do we know that? So for that, as well as knowing when application deadlines are, we're going to jump back to the UCLA site. If we go under calendar and UCAP deadlines, this is where we're going to find how to apply and when to apply. So we'll see up here, applications generally are first come, first serve. Some programs may indicate statement required, and these are not first come, first serve. They will have a supplemental personal statement. You can look through, but I will say just really quickly, at this time, we only have about 7 or 8 programs like this, so it's not too many. Physical applications. So when you go through that online My EAP link, you'll get to a part where it tells you things to print out. Those are going to be submitted to our office in 1332 Murphy Hall by 4:30 p.m. on the day it is due. You do need to turn in your own application, and you are only able to turn in 1 application. And the reason for this, when we start looking through here, is most applications don't have any kind of space limit. So say we did want to apply to that Yonsei program we were just looking at. We're going to go down to Korea. And we got Korea, fall, nothing about limited space. We've got our open date and our close date. As long as you turn in your application before that application deadline and you've got everything, there's no reason why the advisor shouldn't nominate you. if a program is limited space, like we saw, there's a couple different options. Sometimes it just may say it's limited space. Those would need to be turned in probably earlier than later, just because they will become waitlisted at some point. We'll try and indicate it on here when they do. And others, like we said, may have a personal statement, in which case it will say so on here, and you can turn it in any time before the deadline. You just would have to include that, and we would be selecting, in this case, like the 4 most qualified students. But again, in looking through here, most programs, we hit one that had a lot, most programs don't have any kind of space limit. It's just simply turning things in from the open date and the close date. And just for a general reference, we'll go back to the top. Fall applications open the beginning of the school year, as do summer. In this case, it was on October 2nd, and they generally are due about 9 months before you go. So you can actually sort by application deadline. The earliest deadline for this year is going to be on December 12th for, looks like some programs in Japan. But most everything starts being due for summer and fall programs in January. So we've got things in January and another good bulk in February when you scroll down. So just as far as your timing of when to do things, I would say starting to look into programs about a year before you go, and knowing you're going to apply around 9 months before you go is a good sense. Our spring programs are going to open up at the beginning of winter quarter. We can jump down here. So we've got our spring open date, and our spring close dates begin in May of this year. Like we said, you can only apply to one program, just because as long as you meet the requirements, you should be okay. If it is a limited space program you're looking at with a personal statement, or you have or you are applying to a waitlisted program, be in touch with us. We may be able to allow a backup application, but in general, for most students, you're just turning in the one that you were wanting to go to, and you should feel pretty confident knowing you meet the eligibility requirements. That is really the basic start of where you need to go for studying abroad, whether you're looking at summer travel study or UCAP programs, the 2 that are mainly available to UCLA students. If you have any questions, we have a contact us page up here. Our office information is located right here. We are in Murphy Hall in room 1332. We're open 9 to 5 on Mondays through Fridays. If we have any closures, we'll indicate them on here. Our phone number and email address are here as well. So you can always reach out to us there, and we can get you information. We also have individual advisors that you can meet with. Just keep in mind they are divided by program type and also location. So you can review the IEO staff also under the contact page to request an appointment with an individual person, depending on which program you're looking to apply for. Otherwise, you're welcome to walk in anytime for drop-in advising with our front desk team. We hope this was really helpful and is a way for you to feel confident in getting started, which in a process that can be a little bit overwhelming. I promise once you get started, you start looking through, it'll feel a little less overwhelming when you start having answers, but we're always here to help if you have anything more. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.